Okay, folks, thank you all for coming, and my name is Tim Jones. Most of you know me. I'll give you a brief Reader's Digest history of my story. I started in photography in black and white photography courses my freshman year in college, and it was that experience that captivated me and dug its hooks into me, and I've stayed true to that ever since, because it just, every time I go in the darkroom or develop a roll of film or print, it brings me back to a very special time in my life, and there's more to it than just the image making. It's the whole, I used to say process. It's the that experience that I truly was captivated by. But first off, I want to thank Steve Sherman for creating this event, creating this group, because years ago we had a group that many of you were members of, the large format, New England Large Format Photography Collective, and it was a group of between 15 and 20 like-minded individuals that all shot on with sheet film, and it was kind of a unique group, and it was a great experience being part of that group and being with like-minded people all the time. And I got a lot out of that, and we did a lot of good things. We raised money for cancer research, and we had a lot of educational events like this, and it was a very enriching experience. But I probably never said this to Steve. This is better, because this is different viewpoints and different ways of working. And I always think back to when JFK was assembling his cabinet and his advisors during his administration. He always wanted to have people with differing opinions that would challenge him and create discussion to move forward. And you don't move forward if you're with people that all agree with you all the time. And I always thought that was brilliant of him. And so that's why I enjoy this group. Not that I'm changing the way I'm doing things necessarily, but I always learn something new from someone that's doing something differently from me. So thank you, Steve, for putting this group together. That being said, I'm also an old classic car guy, and I've owned several classic cars over the years, and I'm kind of a purist. And I always liked a good stock-looking car that was true to the way the factory built it. But I went to many, many car shows over the years and auctions and whatnot. And there's always that discussion, the Resto-Mod is better. Well, true, in many ways that you can measure it, they're going to be faster, they're going to be more powerful, they're going to have more torque, they handle better. One isn't any different than the other, though. One isn't any better than the other. They're just different ways of doing it. But that tells you a little bit about my personality. So I'm still an analog guy. I don't apologize for it. That's who I am, and that's what I enjoy. So I enjoy that analog process. So these are all straight analog prints. Born from film negatives, printed in the darkroom. Most of you know me as a contact printer for many, many years, and again, because of this group, this body of work here might never have come to be. My wife owned a Mamiya 7 roll film camera, and somebody in this very group I was talking to 3-4 years ago, well, why don't you use that when you travel? Traveling with 8x10 on a plane it's not impossible, but it's so difficult now that I've kind of decided not to do it anymore. Getting 15 or 20 holders through TSA without somebody opening it or, x-raying or whatnot. So I've kind of saved the 8x10 for when I'm in the car. And, we went to Italy last fall, and so these are all from roll film negatives. I don't print I never did print. Well, I shouldn't say never. I used to print much larger when I was shooting 5x7, but Jack said to just the other night, you get a body of work, where do you put all these things? So, I have portfolio cases, I rotate them around in frames, but to me, I like small. They're not that small, but it's intimate. You it's just an intimate experience. So I rarely print anything bigger than 8 by 10. So most of these are all Italy except for the last one. This is a church, I believe. Was it Siena, Darlene?
Yes.
Okay. And this was I love these kind of, I didn't get a lot of big panoramic. Well, I did get some scenics toward the end of the trip, but I enjoy things like this. What the things that turn me on are texture, tonality, and geometry and lines and shapes and angles and whatnot. So I'm constantly looking for things like that to photograph. They interest me as much, if not more, than the big landscape. Although I was hell-bent on getting to the Dolomites. My grandmother came from that section of Italy, and so we did get there, and I got a few nice images from there. But I enjoyed just the same walking around the little towns and finding these other scenes. This is from a winery, not far from, well, that scene is from this facility here. And while my buddy and his wife and Darlene were in the winery, looking around, I saw that. I said, I got to shoot that. So I went back. There was a sign in the picture, and I asked the gal that was in charge of the facility, "You mind if I move that out of the way?" So she let me get rid of the sign. So I shot that. And again, I like texture. I like lines. Now, if you look closely here, you could say, well, everything's not square. Well, guess what? Have you ever been to Italy? Nothing is square. The road is tilted. The doorways are not exactly, square. So, that's the way it was built, and that's the... What's that?
That applies to the general culture. I'm married to one.
Yeah, there you go. And this was, walking around one of the towns, I saw that. And like I said, I was hell-bent on getting to the Dolomites. So luckily I was there a little bit later in the afternoon. I would have loved to have been there an hour or two later, but when you're traveling, somebody once said here, photography is not a spectator sport. And it's not, but my friends and my wife are patient with me. I didn't take a tremendous amount of time. With a small camera, you can work a lot quicker than you can with a view camera. And then this last one, I don't know, the only reason it's in here is it was in the bottom of my print case, and that's from Grand Teton National Park. We had made that trip somewhat earlier. So that's my story. I like analog, and I'm staying true to it for the reasons I gave you. Not that it's right or what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is fantastic. I mean, the sky's the limit for what you can do digitally, but this is where my heart lies. Okay, any questions on any of the images? I'll be happy to answer anything. I know we're not talking a lot of technical jargon, but I'll be happy to share anything with you.
Well, I just wanted to, I noticed like the second one into the staircase,
Mm-hmm.
I could see that you probably purposely darkened the foreground so that it would lead you into.
Absolutely.
So
Not a tremendous amount.
no,
That's not a lot of edge burning, but it's a moderate amount. And I like a little mystery. I don't mind. It's nice to have something where there is detail in every square millimeter of the print. That's fine, but I don't mind a little bit of mystery. And there's detail right to the edge, but that's the.
I think if you had not done that.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I don't do that. Well, I do a little bit of edge burning most of the time, but I did. Yes, it's a little more pronounced there, but that was absolutely intentional.
But it was also a little darker there anyway.
Oh, it was. It was.
There was no sunlight.
Because this is where the open sky is illuminating there, and it wasn't illuminating here as much because the streets in Italy they're barely wide enough for one vehicle to pass. And if you're deep into it, it's pretty dark. So, but yes, Pete, there was a little bit of hocus
Yeah.
pocus there, but
No, it was.
now here, you know, if you look closely and it's under, you know, you can see detail out to here. Some of there are blacks there, but again, that's what, again, in the analog world, and that was shot handheld. So I couldn't do a 6-second exposure and you know, you shoot and roll film, so every negative gets developed the same. So I looked at it and in my mind, I said, I know that's what I'm gonna end up with. So go with it. I thought it would make a striking composition.
Yeah, I like it.
Yes.
You know, you're looking at the arts there, just, you can try playing with, take that image to a frame shop, have them cut an oval mat and have it right on the print.
Yeah.
So the oval echoes the arts. I've done things like that, it works.
That's a good idea. Jim.
When I pull back and sort of look at the panorama here, I'm just struck by the richness of your blacks, like all across the
Thank you.
Do you start with that in mind, or?
Well, for me, the first thing I'm trying to do is dial in the highlights.
Okay.
And now, again, I'm a dinosaur. This is all graded paper. And so I have I don't have as much control as you do with multi-grade paper. So I dial in the highlights to get them where I want them, and then I use Dr. Beer's variable contrast developer to tweak the contrast range. And I've got at my disposal 3 grades of paper that I'm working with. So I can go up or down. Let's see. It's about a half, 3/4 of a grade. I think I can go up or down 2.5 grades with the developer, and I've got 3 grades of paper. So then I'll use that tool to dial in the blacks, if you will. And then it's selenium tone, and that helps enrich them as well. But my focus is generally first the highlights and then the blacks. Yes?
You need an assistant the next time you go to one of these.
Well, I'm going back in the fall. And if you want to bring my 8x10 in that would be fantastic. Just get them there undamaged and X-rayed.
Right through the Appalachian.
We're going back to the Dolomites in the fall?
Not the Dolomites. We did Tuscany and northern Italy predominantly on the last trip, and we're doing Tuscany and then southern Italy on the second half of the trip, and Sicily. So I would love to go back there, but I'd like to see the Alps. I'd like to see Austria. I'd love to see the other side of the Dolomites where the Olympics were. So there's other things to see in that area, but that was my favorite part of the trip. And just a quick little sidebar. This area here has become very, very famous because of Instagram. And it's called Val de Funes is the area, and there's a church there, Santa Magdalena, that is starting to become overrun with tourists because of it's featuring on Instagram. Now, I like to travel off season for a number of reasons. We were there late October, early November. There weren't any crowds there to speak of, and there was a little dirt road that went from the highway up to that hillside, and there were no signs that say don't drive here. And there was an old woman out in her yard, and when we drove in, we asked her, "Is it okay to drive up here?" And she said, "Yeah, no problem." So we drove up there, and there was one other small group of people up there. Yeah, and we were the only vehicle. And when we got to the top near the church, there was a sign that says no vehicles here. Well, we were already there, so I wasn't going to leave without taking. But we didn't destroy. We didn't run over anything. But I understand in the high season that it's a real problem for them. People trampling all over everything. So I kind of felt a little guilty, but I didn't. We asked permission, and they said yes. So.
You speak Italian, Ben?
No, but you know Google Translate?
Oh,
So,
I speak fluent broken English.
oh, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, we manage with Google Translate, and most, you know, many of those people speak English. It's, you know, they're used to tourists for whatever reason. We never had any trouble, especially in restaurants and whatnot. They spoke English fairly well.
It's a
Okay.
terrific, nice little portfolio on Italy. Just one little quick,
You may not have ever thought of this, but to me, that's a left side print. I would put it on the beginning. That's a perfect right side print.
I didn't sequence these at all. You mean for putting them out here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. You're right. I did not. So I put them in the case 3 weeks ago, and I didn't I didn't give it a lot of thought. But
it's a great portfolio on Italy.
yeah, thank you, and thank you to the group for suggesting I could do some nice work with a roll film camera. Thank you.